Hi everyone, welcome to the Flying Obi. Today we're talking about storage and airing. This is probably going to be a quick video because you all know the basics, but let's hope you enjoy and learn something from it. The first thing when you get into kimonos, you're probably going to learn that most people have something special to store their kimono in, whether it be drawers or paper tatoshi. Or things like that, storage boxes and along those lines. It can often be hard to get them, especially if you're a bit strapped for space. I currently live in uni accommodation, so this is quite the dilemma for me quite often. So we'll go over a couple of things you can do to help store your kimono and keep them fresh and beautiful. First things first, usually what kimono you like to see them come in is tatoshi. Now traditionally these are paper and they're yay big. They come with this beautiful gold paint on them usually and some sort of writing. They also have a little hole in them where there's a bit of plastic there so you can see through it and see the kimono inside. Now this is great if you're storing one kimono in them, but more often than not I store 2 to 3 in one tatoshi. Now I'm not using these tatoshi at the moment because my storage space is limited and short. It's very hard to fold these in half when there's a kimono inside them because you're sort of struggling with the paper. So instead I use a fabric one that I get from Daiso. It costs around $3 Australian. I think it's about $2.75 all the Daisos around Australia. In Japan of course it will be 100 yen, and these are bags, just fabric clothes bags that are actually, it says kimono on the packaging. I'll photo up here. Excellent for storing your kimono, and they air nicely. You can wash them if you've had a particularly smelly kimono in them, and they're easily replaced. A pack of 10 paper tatoshi from Ichiroya will cost you about the same with shipping as it will to get 10 of these from Daiso of the fabric one, so it's completely up to you which one you would prefer. If you have the room in a stack of drawers or a stacking space where you'd like to keep your kimono, the paper ones are perfect. Just remember they are brilliant for lying flat, but if ever you need to fold them in half with a kimono in them, they can be quite tricky. Secondly is the drawers. Up until recently I did not have a stack of drawers wide enough to hold my kimono in. I had to fold them in thirds, so yoink yoink yoink. And I stored them in fabric like calico in my cupboard back home. Now that I've moved up to the uni lodgings, I've got the same problems. My drawers are quite narrow and I have to fold them in thirds again. But yesterday I did a trip out to Bunnings, which was excellent, and I bought 2 long plastic containers on screen now. So these plastic ones, they cost me about $15. They slide under my bed, which is a perfect spot for them. Easy to get to, easy to air. I will be puncturing some holes in them to make them even easier to air, and they're quite convenient to get to, which is excellent. Anyway, moving on, I have now several pairs of Zori and several other pairs of shoes where I don't have a cupboard to stick them in the bottom of. I now have a hanging space for them. I also hang up my Amamitsuyuki, my Haori, and my Juban all the time. I rarely keep my Haori, Amamitsuyuki and Juban folded up just because they're easy access, it keeps them aired out all the time, and they are generally made of a stronger fabric. You don't want to do this with your normal kimono because the seams can be quite old, for example, and you don't want your shoulders really bending out of shape. With a Juban this doesn't matter too much in your Amamitsuyuki. They're not made of a very volatile fabric, so they are less likely to stretch. The shoes I just store together in a set, and having this makes it really handy. Of course, if you're a shoe collector, you can get sedans for them. I'm not, unfortunately. Well, maybe fortunately, I collect kimono. Enough money spent there. Moving on to the last part of this video. Kimono do need to be aired. The problem is that a lot of vintage kimono, a lot of kimono that have been in storage, do excuse the train, is that the Japanese usually use naphthalene in their mothballs, or a lot of vintage kimono have not been aired out since they've had naphthalene in their storage containment. So they smell, a lot of people love the vintage kimono smell. As much as you might like it, I ask that you air them out. So naphthalene is a type of poison. And if you're wearing kimono without airing them out, if you're in a room with them a lot without airing them out, it can be quite hazardous to your health. I have heard of somebody getting naphthalene poison, and especially when it's wet and you might accidentally get your kimono wet. You don't want to be breathing it in, you don't want to be getting it on your skin. So it is poisonous. I've had issues where I've had vintage kimono that I've worn the day after receiving them through the post, and my eczema, which I have quite bad sometimes on my hands and on the insides of my elbows. I don't at the moment, it's been nicely treated, but anytime I'm wearing kimono that have not been aired properly or washed after the naphthalene balls, so they still smell quite strong of it, it always arcs up. So if you have skin problems and you're wearing kimono, this is not going to be good. So make sure you always air your kimono out. This is very easy to do. I do suggest that you, with new kimono in summer, let them spend 2 days out in the sun, hanging out nice and breezy on a clothes horse. If you have like a Hills horse or something, that's even better because they'll get extra airflow. You can either hang them up with pegs, but it's easier if you get one of the t-shirt hangers for each kimono, because they will fit approximately the length, and this will air them out nicely. If you can flip them inside out as well for the second day or for the first day, so 1 day out of the 2. It's excellent. During winter, if it's not raining, if there's still sun out, maybe 4 to 5 days will be good. And then air them out in the laundry for another week until the smell really goes. Try and choose somewhere that has good airflow. Now, unfortunately, I neither have a laundry or a Hills hoist at my new accommodation. I will put a photo up of my Hills hoist at home. Then you can just use a folding out clothes horse and try and hang for your obi and kimono, and for your kimono in particular, maybe some coat hangers on the balcony or something like that, just hanging up from the roof so they can get some airflow. Try and open them out a bit, and make sure you give them at least a day before you wear them, especially if they've been in storage for a long time, so you don't go walking around smelling like a non-aired closet for a while. Anyway, I think that's all for today. Make sure you store your kimono in the dark whenever possible. If you do have them hanging out on display, the ratio for fabric in a museum or art gallery or places for that, for any natural material, is 1 to 3. So if a kimono is on display for 1 week, make sure you store it in a dark, non-humid place for about 3 weeks, and this will keep the colour beautiful and vivid and in its best condition for the longest amount of time you can. So if you're displaying them, try and switch them over regularly, and this will also keep them in good condition. But hanging them up on display is also a wonderful way to air them out. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good one. Do enjoy the Flying Obi. We'll see you next time.